The anomaly's shadow. The stars watched in silence as the Pathfinder cut through the darkness between them, its sleek hull gleaming under the light of a distant sun. On the command deck, Captain Ilara Chen stood with her hands clasped behind her back, dark eyes fixed on the holographic display before her. 18 hours into her shift, her uniform remained immaculate, a small point of pride in the vast emptiness of space. Approaching the coordinates, Captain, announced Lieutenant Marcus Rivera from the navigation station. His fingers danced across the tactile interface, the blue glow illuminating his focused expression. Spatial distortion readings are off the charts. Ilara nodded slowly. Take us to observation distance. Deploy sensor arrays at maximum sensitivity. The Pathfinder was humanity's most advanced deep space exploration vessel, built not for war, but for discovery. Earth United had learned the hard way that curiosity without caution was a luxury they couldn't afford. Not anymore. Not since the Centauri incident. Captain, I'm detecting unusual energy signatures from the anomaly, reported Science Officer Dr. Imani Okafor. Her voice carried the controlled excitement that only scientists could maintain when facing the unknown. It's pulsing, almost like it's breathing. The bridge fell silent as the main view screen activated, revealing a sight that made even the most seasoned crew members catch their breath. Ahead of them hung a tear in space itself, a shifting, iridescent rift that seemed to bend light around it like water flowing around a stone. "My God," whispered Rivera. "What is it?" Ilara leaned forward. "That, Lieutenant, is why we're here. The anomaly that's been swallowing probes and distorting communications across 3 sectors." A subtle chime interrupted the moment of awe. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission," announced Communications Officer Hiroshi Tanaka. "Unknown origin, but it's using an old diplomatic frequency." "Put it through," Ilara ordered, straightening her posture. The view screen shifted, revealing a being unlike any human eyes had seen before. Its form was vaguely humanoid but composed of what appeared to be crystalline structures that shifted with subtle flowing movements. Its voice, when it spoke, seemed to resonate from multiple sources at once. "Vessel of Earth, you approach the threshold with ignorance. This is forbidden by the Eternal Protocol. Withdraw immediately." Ilara stepped forward. "This is Captain Ilara Chen of the Earth United exploration vessel Pathfinder. We are on a peaceful mission of scientific inquiry. We have no record of any Eternal Protocol in this sector." The crystalline beam structures shifted in what might have been the equivalent of a frown. "Your species' memory is as brief as your lives. The protocol predates your emergence from your cradle world. It has maintained peace among the stars for 20,000 years. We mean no disrespect," Ilara continued, "but we've detected anomalous readings that threaten navigation in this sector. We're here to investigate and potentially neutralize any hazards. Your intentions are irrelevant. The threshold must remain undisturbed. The Vreshian Alliance maintains this space. Leave now, humans." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the bridge in silence. "Vreshian Alliance?" Rivera questioned. "I've never heard of them." "Nor have I," Ilara admitted. "Tanaka, send a query to Earth United databases. Dr. Okafor, continue your analysis of the anomaly. I want to know what we're dealing with before we decide our next move." Hours passed as the Pathfinder maintained its position at a respectful distance from the anomaly. The crew worked diligently, gathering data and searching for answers. Ilara remained on the bridge, reviewing reports and considering their options. "Captain," Tanaka called out, breaking the studious quiet. "Response from Earth United. The Vreshian Alliance is mentioned in only our oldest records, fragmentary references from the early days of our expansion. They're described as one of the ancient races, predating human interstellar travel by millennia." Ilara frowned. "And the Eternal Protocol?" "No specific references, Captain. But there are mentions of restricted zones throughout the galaxy, places where navigation is forbidden for reasons unstated. Dr. Okafor approached with a data pad in hand. Captain, I've compiled my findings on the anomaly. It's not natural, at least, not entirely. There are patterns in the energy fluctuations that suggest deliberate manipulation. A constructed phenomenon, Ilara asked, taking the pad. More like maintained, Okafor clarified. Something is actively stabilizing it, preventing it from either collapsing or expanding. And there's more. I've detected traces of ship movements near the anomaly. Recent ones. Ilara's expression hardened. So our crystalline friend wasn't being entirely forthcoming. Monitor those traces. I want to know who's been visiting this forbidden zone. The answer came sooner than expected. As the ship's artificial day cycle shifted to night and the bridge crew rotated, the sensors began picking up new readings. Captain, to the bridge, came the urgent call over the ship's communication system. Ilara arrived to find the night shift in a state of controlled alarm. Report, she demanded as she took her position. 3 vessels approaching from the far side of the anomaly, reported the night shift tactical officer. Design unknown, not matching any registered configurations in our database. Hail them, Ilara ordered. No response, Captain. They're maintaining course, headed straight for us. Ilara's decision was immediate. Yellow alert. Raise shields, but keep weapons powered down. Let's not appear hostile. The approaching vessels moved with unnatural precision, their hulls black against the starfield, absorbing rather than reflecting light. They took up positions around the Pathfinder, forming a triangle that effectively surrounded the human ship. Still no response to hails, Tanaka reported, having returned to the bridge at the alert. Captain, I'm detecting energy buildups in those ships, the tactical officer warned. Configurations suggest weapon systems. Ilara's mind raced through options. Open a general broadcast, all frequencies. When Tanaka nodded, indicating the channel was open, Ilara spoke clearly. This is Captain Chen of the Pathfinder. We are an exploration vessel on a peaceful mission. We acknowledge the restricted status of this region and are prepared to withdraw. Please respond. The reply came not as words but as action. A beam of intense energy lanced out from the lead vessel, striking the Pathfinder's shields with devastating force. Shields at 60%, shouted the tactical officer. One hit. How is that possible? Evasive maneuvers, Ilara commanded. Return fire, defensive pattern only. The Pathfinder banked sharply, its maneuvering thrusters firing at maximum capacity. The ship's defensive weapons, officially designated as debris clearance systems, to comply with Earth United's peaceful exploration mandate, fired targeting pulses at the attacking vessels. No effect, Captain. Their hull is absorbing our emissions. A second blast struck the Pathfinder, sending tremors throughout the ship's structure. Shields at 30%. Hull breach on Deck 4, emergency containment activated. Ilara gripped the arms of her command chair. Deploy countermeasures and prepare for emergency FTL jump. Get us out of here. As the crew scrambled to execute her orders, the main view screen flickered to life once more. This time, the face that appeared was not crystalline, but something else entirely. A being with features that seemed to shift and change, as though unable to decide on a final form. Humans. The being spoke, its voice unnaturally deep. You should not have come. The threshold is not for lesser species. The Harbingers alone determine who may ascend. Who are you? Ilara demanded. What is this threshold? The being's features settled momentarily into something almost reptilian, with vertical pupils and eyes that glowed with an inner light. We are the Harbingers of transcendence. The threshold is the gateway to power beyond your comprehension. The Vreshian Alliance keeps it sealed through their precious protocol, denying the worthy their rightful evolution. By attacking peaceful vessels, Ilara challenged. By eliminating those who would maintain the old order, the Harbinger replied coldly. The Vreshians have hidden the truth for too long. All species deserve the chance to evolve or perish. Before Ilara could respond, The bridge shook with another impact. Hull integrity failing on decks 3 through 5. FTL drive is damaged. We can't jump. The Harbinger's expression shifted to what might have been a smile. Your ship will make an adequate demonstration to the freshions of our resolve. Farewell, humans. As the transmission ended, Ilara made a decision that would change the course of human history in the stars. Execute Protocol Prometheus, she ordered, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. The tactical officer's eyes widened. Captain, Fats. A last resort. Ilara finished for him. And we've reached it. Authorization code Chen Delta 97 Epsilon. Throughout the Pathfinder, hidden compartments began to open, revealing systems that officially didn't exist. Systems that violated the peaceful exploration mandate. Systems that might save their lives. Prometheus Systems Online, reported the tactical officer, a new determination in his voice. Advanced weapons grid charging. Target their propulsion systems, Ilara ordered. We're not starting a war today. We just need to escape. The Pathfinder's hidden weapons fired, not the weak defensive pulses from before, but concentrated beams of energy that cut through space with surgical precision. The attacking vessels, caught unprepared for this sudden show of force, broke formation as their engines were disabled one by one. Captain, the anomaly. It's changing. Dr. Okafor called out from her station. The energy patterns are destabilizing. On the view screen, the beautiful, iridescent tear in space began to pulse more violently, its edges fraying like cloth under too much tension. All personnel, brace for impact. Ilara shouted as she saw the wave of energy building at the anomaly center. The threshold erupted, sending a shockwave that engulfed everything in its path. The Harbinger vessels, the Pathfinder, and beyond. The last thing Ilara saw before losing consciousness was a brilliant light that seemed to contain every color imaginable, and some that human eyes had never before witnessed. When she awoke, the universe as humanity knew it had fundamentally changed. The day the Starship revealed its darkness had arrived, and there would be no going back to the innocence of before. When stars rise, awareness returned to Ilara in fragments, the acrid smell of burned circuitry, the distant wail of emergency sirens, the taste of blood in her mouth. The bridge of the Pathfinder lay in semi-darkness, emergency lighting casting long shadows across the debris-strewn deck. She pulled herself upright, wincing at the pain that shot through her left side. Status report, she called out, her voice hoarse. Around her, the surviving bridge crew were already moving, checking systems and tending to the injured. Lieutenant Rivera limped to her side, a makeshift bandage wrapped around his forehead. Bad, but not as bad as it should be, he reported. Shield generators are completely fried. Primary power is offline. Life support is running on auxiliary systems, but the hull integrity held where it mattered. Ilara nodded, processing the information. Casualties. Rivera's expression darkened. 12 confirmed dead. 28 injured, 8 critically. Medical is overwhelmed. And the Harbinger vessels. 2 destroyed in the shockwave. The third is drifting. Minimal power signatures. Dr. Okafor approached, her lab coat torn and stained, but her eyes bright with a mixture of fear and scientific fascination. Captain, the anomaly, the threshold. It's transformed. You need to see this. With effort, the view screen flickered to life, revealing what had once been the spatial rift. Instead of the contained tier they had observed before, now a vast, swirling vortex dominated the space before them, tendrils of energy reaching outward like cosmic fingers. What happened? Ilara asked, mesmerized by the sight. The shockwave from our battle seems to have disrupted whatever was stabilizing it, Okafor explained. It's expanding, Captain. Slowly but steadily. And I'm detecting massive energy fluctuations within it, like pathways forming. Pathways to where? Before Okafor could speculate, Tanaka called out from his damaged communication station. Captain, we're receiving multiple transmissions. The Vresian Alliance, Earth United Command, and at least 6 other species, all demanding information about what's happened. Ilara straightened her posture, ignoring the pain. Put the Vresian representative through first. The crystalline being appeared once more, but its formerly smooth surfaces now appeared jagged, fractures running through its form. "What have you done?" it demanded, its harmonic voice discordant with emotion. "The threshold was sealed for the protection of all. The protocol has stood for millennia." "We were attacked," Ilara responded firmly, "by a group calling themselves the Harbingers. They claimed the threshold is a gateway to evolution that your alliance has been keeping sealed." "Fools!" The Vresian's voice resonated with ancient grief. "The threshold is no gateway to advancement. It is a wound in reality left by those who came before. The Harbingers are a cult, believing the energies within will grant them transcendence. They know nothing of the horrors that led to the protocol's creation." "Then tell us," Ilara challenged. "If you expect cooperation now, the time for secrets has passed." The Vresians seemed to consider this before responding. 20,000 years ago, a species we now call only the precursors discovered how to harness the energy between dimensions. They created the first threshold, believing it would grant them unlimited power. Instead, it attracted entities from beyond our understanding. The war that followed nearly destroyed all sentient life in the galaxy. Images appeared on the screen, ancient recordings showing devastation on a cosmic scale. Entire star systems reduced to dust, planets shattered like glass. When it ended, the Vresian continued. "The few surviving species formed the alliance. We sealed the remaining thresholds and established the protocol. No species would develop weapons beyond what was necessary for basic defense. No one would risk attracting those entities again. And you never thought to share this history with emerging species like humans?" Ilara asked, anger edging her voice. "Knowledge is a temptation," the Vresian replied simply. "The fewer who knew, the safer all would be." Ilara shared a look with her officers. "Well, that safety has ended. The threshold is active and expanding. What happens now?" "Now," the Vresian's voice had become grave, "we prepare for war." The next 48 hours passed in a blur of activity. The Pathfinder's self-repair systems worked tirelessly to restore basic functionality while the crew focused on treating the injured and mourning their dead. Earth United, upon learning of the situation, dispatched a fleet of vessels, ostensibly for rescue operations, but Ilara recognized the military formations they adopted as they approached. More surprising was the arrival of ships from a dozen other species, many of which humanity had never encountered before. The Vresian Alliance had called its ancient members to action, and the response was impressive in its scale and speed. "They've been preparing for this," Ilara remarked to Rivera as they observed the gathering fleet from the partially repaired bridge. "For thousands of years, they've maintained the appearance of minimal defense capabilities, while secretly preparing for the day the protocol might fail." "Not unlike what we did with Protocol Prometheus," Rivera pointed out. Ilara nodded thoughtfully. "It seems no one truly trusted in eternal peace." Her musings were interrupted by Tanaka. "Captain, incoming transmission from Admiral Zhao, Earth United Defense Command." Admiral Helena Zhao's stern face appeared on the view screen, her silver-streaked hair pulled back in a tight bun. "Captain Chen, your report has caused quite the stir at command. The Security Council is divided on how to proceed." "What are our orders, Admiral?" Ilara asked directly. "For now, observe and report. The Council is sending Ambassador Torres to assess the diplomatic situation. But off the record, Ilara." Zhao leaned closer to the camera, her voice lowering. "Protocol Chimera has been activated." Ilara felt her blood run cold. If Prometheus was a last resort for a single vessel, Chimera was its fleet-wide equivalent, the full deployment of humanity's hidden military capabilities. "Understood, Admiral," she responded, keeping her expression neutral. "We'll continue repairs and await the ambassador's arrival." As the days passed, the situation at the threshold deteriorated. The swirling vortex continued its slow expansion, and scientific teams from various species worked around the clock to find a way to seal it once more. The Harbingers, initially thought defeated, re-emerged with unexpected strength, dozens of ships appearing from hidden bases throughout the sector, attacking Alliance vessels and attempting to penetrate the defensive perimeter around the threshold. Ambassador Torres arrived aboard the diplomatic vessel Concordia, immediately establishing a command center for interspecies cooperation. Ilara found herself increasingly pulled into strategic discussions, her first-hand experience with both the Threshold and the Harbingers making her perspective valuable. The Harbingers aren't just fanatics, she explained during one such meeting, surrounded by representatives from 7 different species. They're well-organized and technologically advanced. Someone's been supplying them with capabilities far beyond what the protocol should allow. The Vresian representative, who had introduced himself as Elder Nith, shifted his crystalline form in what Ilara had come to recognize as agreement. We have suspected for some time that elements within the Alliance itself have been corrupted. The lure of advancement is powerful, even for those who know the risks. Why not simply destroy the Threshold? Asked the Tellurian representative, a being comprised of what appeared to be living metal. Concentrated fire from our combined fleets could collapse it. Impossible, Elder Nith responded. Such an attempt would only accelerate the process. The Threshold must be sealed methodically, using the same principles that created it. Ambassador Torres, a tall woman with piercing eyes that missed nothing, leaned forward. And you have this technology. A moment of uncomfortable silence followed before Elder Nith admitted, not entirely. Parts of the original sealing methods were lost during the Great Collapse that ended the Precursor War. We have been searching for alternatives for millennia. Ilara exchanged glances with Torres, a silent communication passing between them. The ambassador gave an almost imperceptible nod. Perhaps, Ilara suggested carefully, humanity might offer a fresh perspective. Our scientists have been studying dimensional physics for over a century, albeit without knowing about the thresholds. The various representatives turned to her, with expressions ranging from skepticism to hope. "What do you propose, Captain Chen?" Elder Nith asked. Before she could respond, alarms blared throughout the command center. On the main tactical display, dozens of new contacts appeared, a massive Harbinger fleet emerging from concealed positions throughout the sector. They were waiting, Ilara realized aloud. This was their plan all along, to gather everyone here and then strike in force. The battle that followed would later be recorded in the histories of 100 worlds as the Day of Awakening. The combined Alliance fleet fought valiantly against the Harbinger forces, but it quickly became apparent that the cultists had prepared well for this moment. Their weapons cut through defensive shields with frightening ease, and their coordination suggested a unified command structure that no one had anticipated. Aboard the Pathfinder, now partially repaired and joining the defense, Ilara made a decision that would define her legacy. "Initiate full Prometheus protocols," she ordered, "and signal the Earth fleet. Tell Admiral Zhao it's time for Chimera." Throughout the human vessels, hidden systems activated. Shields strengthened to unprecedented levels. Weapons emerged from concealed compartments. Propulsion systems surged with power that defied conventional physics. The Vresian ships nearby detected the sudden change, their commanders undoubtedly shocked at this revelation of human capability. But there was no time for accusations or explanations. The Harbingers had broken through the defensive line and were approaching the threshold. "All Earth vessels, form on the Pathfinder," Ilara commanded, taking tactical control of the human fleet with Admiral Zhou's blessing. "Defensive formation Aegis. We hold the line here." The human ships moved with precision, forming a barrier between the Harbingers and their goal. When the cultist vessels opened fire, they found their previously devastating weapons significantly less effective against the enhanced human shields. "Return fire," Ilara ordered calmly. "Disable their propulsion and weapons systems where possible. This isn't about destruction. It's about denial." The human fleet's response was measured but overwhelming. Precision strikes disabled Harbinger vessels one after another, leaving them drifting but intact. The tide of battle began to turn. Elder Nith's voice came through on a private channel to Ilara's command station. "Your species has violated the protocol," he stated, though his tone held more resignation than accusation. "As has every other species, I suspect," Ilara replied evenly. "The difference is, we're using our capabilities to protect rather than destroy." A pause followed before the elder responded. Perhaps the protocol as it stood was flawed, built on secrets and distrust rather than true cooperation. On the main tactical display, Ilara could see Alliance vessels beginning to reveal their own hidden capabilities, weapon systems, and defensive measures that clearly exceeded protocol limitations emerging across the fleet. "It seems we all prepared for this day," she observed. "Yes," Elder Nith agreed. "But preparation without purpose leads to stagnation. Your species brings something we have lacked for too long: innovation without abandoning caution." As the battle continued around them, Dr. Okafor approached Ilara's command station, her expression one of contained excitement. "Captain, I've been analyzing the Threshold's energy patterns in conjunction with data shared by the Vresians. I believe we can seal it, not with force, but with resonance." Ilara listened intently as Okafor explained her theory, using precisely calibrated energy pulses from multiple ships to create an interference pattern that would gradually collapse the Threshold back into its dormant state. It would require exact coordination across different technological systems, Okafor concluded, something that would have been impossible under the old protocol's restrictions on information sharing. Ilara didn't hesitate. "Share the theory with Elder Nith and request volunteers from all species. If we're going to rewrite the rules today, let's make sure it's for the right reasons." What followed was unprecedented in galactic history. Ships from a dozen different species, each revealing technologies long kept secret, working in perfect harmony under human coordination. The Pathfinder served as the focal point, its systems calibrated to Okafor's specifications, while vessels from throughout the combined fleet positioned themselves in a complex geometric pattern around the expanding threshold. "All ships report ready," Captain Rivera announced, his voice steady despite the tension. Ilara took a deep breath. "Begin sequence." Energy beams of varying compositions and frequencies converged on strategic points around the Threshold's perimeter. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, gradually, the swirling vortex began to contract, its tendrils of energy withdrawing like a sea creature returning to its shell. "It's working," Okafor exclaimed. "The resonance pattern is stabilizing the dimensional boundaries." The process took hours, during which the remaining human and Alliance vessels continued to hold off sporadic Harbinger attacks. But eventually, the Threshold collapsed into itself, shrinking until it was once again a small, contained rift in space, and then, with a final pulse of energy that washed over the assembled fleet like a gentle wave, it sealed completely. In the aftermath, as damage reports came in and the wounded were tended to, representatives from all involved species gathered aboard the Alliance flagship, a massive Vresian vessel that dwarfed even the largest human ships. Elder Nith, now joined by a full council of Alliance leaders, formally addressed the assembled captains and ambassadors. "For 20,000 years, we have maintained peace through secrecy and limitation," the elder began, his crystalline form gleaming under the chamber's lights. "Today has proven both the wisdom and the folly of that approach. The wisdom, that caution was necessary. The folly, that true security comes not from hiding our strengths from each other, but from using them together for common purpose." Murmurs of agreement spread through the gathered representatives. "Therefore," Nith continued, "the Vresian Alliance proposes a new protocol, one of transparency and cooperation rather than restriction and secrecy. A framework that acknowledges our differences while celebrating what unites us as sentient beings." Ambassador Torres stepped forward. "Humanity would be honored to participate in the drafting of this new agreement," she stated formally. We have much to learn from those who have traveled the stars for longer than our recorded history. And we, Elder Nith responded, inclining his crystalline structure in what approximated a bow, have much to learn from those who approach old problems with fresh perspectives. Later, as the Pathfinder prepared to return to Earth, Ilara stood at the viewport in her quarters, watching as ships from a dozen species moved through space in cooperative patterns that would have been unimaginable weeks before. The darkness that had threatened to engulf the galaxy when the Starship revealed its true nature had been countered not by more darkness, but by light, the combined brilliance of civilizations choosing to trust rather than fear. "Captain to the bridge," came Tanaka's voice over the comm system. "We're receiving a priority transmission from Earth United Command." As Ilara made her way through the corridors of her damaged but healing ship, she reflected that this was merely the beginning. The galaxy had changed fundamentally, and humanity's place in it had been forever altered. The day the Starship turned dark would be remembered by every civilization, not as the end of peace, but as the beginning of something far more valuable: genuine understanding. The stars watched in silence, as they always had, but perhaps now they watched with something like hope. Retriclaude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.